Welcome everybody to the ordinary meeting of Council for Ararat Rural City on Tuesday the 10th of December. Council is keen to engage with members of the community and now live streams the formal council meetings to make them accessible. The stream will be available to view on Ararat Rural City Council's Facebook page from 6 p.m. and on Council's website www.ararat.vic.gov.au from Wednesday morning following the Council meeting. You do not require a Facebook account to watch the live broadcast. Simply enter www.facebook.com/Ararat Rural City Council into your address bar. Councillors and attendant officers, please stand as we make the traditional acknowledgement, opening prayer and councillors' pledge. Councillor Peter Beals.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
Councillor Frank Deutsch.
Opening prayer. Almighty God, we humbly ask you to help us as elected councillors of the Ararat Rural City Council. Guide our deliberations. Prosper what is your will for us, to your honour and glory, and for the welfare and benefit of the people whom we serve in the Ararat Rural City.
And Councillor Gwenda Allgood.
Councillors pledge we will undertake the duties of the office of councillors in the best interest of the people of the municipal district of the Ararat Rural City and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us under the Local Government Act 1989 or any other act to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you. Please be seated. Apologies. I do have an apology from Councillor David Petman, and I have a recommendation, please, that the apology of Councillor Petman be accepted. Thank you, Councillor George. Seconded, Councillor Allgood. We'll take it as those in favour will accept that. And confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held last month on the 19th of December 2019 be confirmed. Do I have a
19th of November.
Oh, sorry, did I say December then? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for correcting me. I'm over the page already and into the next month. Yes, 19th of November 2019 be confirmed. Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Seconded, Councillor Hull. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Declaration of disclosure of interests. These are to be made immediately prior to any relevant item being discussed, and just a reminder that we'll be bringing those forward at that point of discussion. The admission of urgent business, sorry? We have one already? Thank you very much. So I'll mention that prior to that item. Thank you. Item 1.6, admission of urgent business. We've received no notices, thank you very much, no urgent business, and now we move into section 2 of the meeting, the public participation. We have a request to address council. These questions can be made without notice. The presenter will be allocated a maximum of 3 minutes to present his or her address to council. An extension of time may be granted by resolution of council. During the presentation, the presenter may not address questions to councillors or officers. 2 minutes will then be allocated for councillors to ask questions of the presenter if required. Following the presentation, council may request a further report on the matter from officers. Members of the public gallery are not allowed to communicate with councillors and officers whilst the meeting is in progress. And we do have a request to address council from Eugene Apter, from the organisation UE Industries Proprietary Limited, and the brief for this address is response to areas of concern in the planning report. So I invite Mr Apter to address us. Thank you.
Can I just pose the question? I do have a conflict of interest in that particular item. So.
We're receiving information, I understand, from Mr Apter, and the decision has not been made at this point in the meeting. So, yeah, appropriate for you to remain. Thanks, Councillor Allgood.
Thank you. If I may begin just by passing around a selection of some materials I've prepared just for general reference for the members. Yeah, I've got 6 copies, so I need just a little bit of sharing. My apologies. And
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this time to present. I do appreciate the opportunity. Please forgive if I'm a little bit frazzled. I've just come off the back of a full weekend gig from Thursday through to 8 p.m. last night at another event where I was Operations Director and Chief Warden, so didn't quite have an opportunity to address any of the paperwork between Friday morning when I saw it briefly. So most of this was prepared last night rather rushedly, but mainly just wanted to emphasise initially the intentions of the event, really working to compensate for primarily the location of the site being on the eastern side of the Shire and thus not getting as much organic tourism traffic through as we might prefer. Thus I've been really working hard to establish as many local community groups to be involved in the event as possible to just make the most of the benefits of the community through those regards. So currently we've got Sally Peacock from Bangor Primary School who's looking to be running the main food store where they'll probably walk away with 20k at the minimum based on historical performances. I've been in contact with Murray with Golden Gateway who'll probably be doing the main road works. I've been chatting with Reg from the Warwick Trash and Treasure Market, lining up hopefully a fair few community groups, regulars from the market to come and be a part of it as well. Judy Leggett from Little Athletics Ararat, we're going to donate a series of 5 $1,000 donations to the group just as a bare minimum effort to just show our intentions to do right. Beyond that, long-term collaboration, I've been chatting with Andrea and Alistair at Project Platypus and also Connections at Landcare, looking to ideally do some really cool stuff with tree planting and revegetation in the short to long term. Previously, we had produced $150,000 of direct revenue from the last event, which was included in my info pack but not regarded in the planning review because it was presented as promotional material, so my apologies. There's some more pretty pictures in the current folders. It does not negate the factual validity of all the information provided. Supplementary to that, I've got letters of support of every previous business involved last time round where they directly state in numerical figures how much money they earned from the weekend as a direct result of our measures. As it stands, a lot of these community engagement arrangements remain tentative as it's difficult to proceed without solidity of knowing what's going to proceed. In the greater scheme of what the event intends, we hope to lead by example in a lot of regards, particularly in sustainability. Currently we have composting toilets, hand sorting of all waste, material salvaging, solar and battery powered lighting and biodegradable foodware and zero waste policies as our bare minimum standard practices. Beyond that, we're looking to progressively go towards more solar as well as including permaculture to utilise the compost and just do really, really cool things in that regard. In the planning report, there was zero acknowledgement of Council's own strategy guidelines relating to tourism events, regional development and economic diversification. Similarly, the references to those guidelines from state, federal and municipal and regional levels were not included.
Mr. Actor, your 3 minutes is...
I'll move the extension.
And I'll second that.
Thank you.
Those in favour of an extension of time for Mr. Actor? Against? That's carried. Thank you. How many minutes?
2.
Thank you.
Thank you. There was an RFI that I received at the end of September, which I responded to in just over 2 weeks with a vast majority of new reports prepared to address the RFI fairly directly. In the folders I've passed around, there's 2 emails in particular where I've been following up to gain clarity on BMO requirements and also the specific requirements for a bushfire hazard report, which I was ready to go, as you can see in the emails. I'm a bit concerned by that point, particularly because fire was raised as a concern, used as a primary reason why the permit was being recommended to be denied, particularly because, as the email shows, I was ready to go with my consultants to conduct that assessment, but over numerous written and verbal requests, the final clarity I only gained in November, which advised that because CFA had signed off on their query, then that element was fine. So I feel a little bit hard done by in that regard because all of those concerns specifically relating to fire I've been ready to address, particularly with the establishment. A colleague of mine has just established a new business operating fire suppression services and gained full public liability and professional indemnity cover. That's led by my close friend and colleague Malcolm Matthews, who's got 35 years MFB experience. So we're very proud of the top level quality of the team and also the resources to support that team. The other main points that we used, that were highlighted particularly were the traffic concerns and also the trespassing concerns. We've got a detailed 12 to 14 point trespassing plan, depending on how you count the points. It's an area that affects any breach of breach of the boundaries of the event property. So that's what we perimeter patrol. That's what we look out for. We've got comprehensive measures in place to maintain that every person at the event stays within the boundaries of the event. It's not in our interest to have anyone wandering, for safety, for logical reasons, for many others, and especially the traffic plan. I very much appreciate the concerns with regards to the external access on the primary access road on Ben Nevis Road, but that's a matter that I can address within days with a brief consultation with my consultant and further surveying works and I'm willing to engage in any collaborative road works. I'm really willing to do whatever's required. Last point I'll make is...
very briefly, Mr. Actor.
Yes. I am genuinely very proud, particularly the traffic plan. It is currently, I believe, the only one of very few, if many, traffic plans relating to events that actually abides by the state's planning policy requirements. Very quickly...
Mr. Actor, so you understand...
10 seconds.
We've got this.
Sorry.
Thank you. You've supplied this to
every
us.
car to scale on the map.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, do any of you have any questions for Mr. Actor? Councillor Beers?
This document.
Yes.
I've seen this before, where it's got Warwick CFA had Ararat Scouts.
Yeah.
How much consultation did you make when you put the names on there?
I'd contacted all of them. Initially, I had looked. I was been chatting to Murray a fair bit to isolate, ideally, not just any local community groups, but particularly the ones that could use the support all the more. I've been particularly desperate to try and get a hold of that Ararat District Junior District Football Association, but Cameron Evans is very elusive. Because I heard that they were one of the groups that don't receive much external funding, so could really appreciate the influx. But there's the traffic and the waste management role of contracts that we'd like to allocate to those groups, so they walk away with a good chunk of cash to help them with whatever their endeavours.
Councillor Beals?
One other one. What's your relationship with the Mayor of Melton? I see you used her as a reference.
Purely just a contact that through various associations she provided a little bit of advice when I was going through a permitting application several years ago, just to help with a bit of perspective on what the regular processes is. I am aware that there was an unwelcome contact on her behalf that was, I presume, based on some Chinese whispers. And my apologies for that. I've spoken with him about that. I do sincerely apologise that had any ramifications as a result of this. Absolutely not my intention.
Councillor Beals, thank you. Councillor Braithwaite?
Thank you. Eugene, given the experience of the weekend at Marysville, can you outline for us the risk management process that you plan to have in terms of drug minimisation or mitigation?
Reduction, absolutely. Look, I'm quite astoundingly proud of our performance historically as far as exponentially low intervention rates. Previous event at 4,500 people, we had 2 transports, both for pre-existing conditions. We had 2 arrests, 1 person who came back, we caught him again. The level of intervention even by police who breathalyzed 2,400 cars to get 0 positive for alcohol, as opposed to the average 1 in 10, 1 in 15 on any street in Victoria. 13 to 16, depending on which figure was provided, were caught for drugs either in their possession or in their system while driving. and out of 4,500, as much as I would absolutely love 0, we have not been subject to the mainstream social issues that the more commercially promoted events are absolutely subject to. And I stand by the performance in that regard. We are below par on any industry standard.
And that's our 2 minutes of councillor question time up. Thank you very much, Mr. Raptor. I'll give you a chance to clear your papers away. Thank you. Next part of the meeting, petitions, item 2.3. Oh, so beg your pardon, sorry, I've skipped one again. Item 2.2, deputations and presentations. We have none. 2.3, petitions. We have none. Thank you. Moving along to section 3 of the public meeting with reports requiring council decision. The first item we have for consideration is the risk management policy and risk management framework. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you're aware, council officers are currently working on implementing a more effective risk management platform for council to work within. This risk management policy and risk management framework were presented to the council's audit committee at its last meeting and were fairly well received. I think it's fair to say as a good step forward in terms of a sensible and understandable approach to risk management within the organisation. So I'll just ask Ms Wilcock to comment in more detail around the policy and the framework.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. The risk management policy was reviewed as part of an ongoing process, and the policy was last reviewed in April 2010. And Council Risk Management Policy sets out the processes and responsibilities and accountability for risk management within the council. The policy reinforces the organisation's commitment to risk management practices and also improves compliance with legislation. But to complement the policy, we've reviewed the risk management strategy, and we now have a risk management framework which incorporates a toolkit that we did have before. This provides an overall operational aid to assist the organisation to prevent and minimise the adverse effects of risks associated with the operation. As part of putting together the framework, we're going to have information and awareness sessions, which will be scheduled over the next 12 months, to ensure that risk management processes outlined in the framework are utilised across the organisation. And we'll also be doing a full review of the strategic and operational risk registers in the coming months.
Very good. Councillors, are there any questions of Ms Wilcock or the CEO? Councillor Beales?
No, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'll second.
Move Councillor Beales. Seconded Councillor Howell. And those in favour? Those against? Carried.
Madam Mayor, I realise this is scintillating stuff for us, but I move that we move item 3.4 forward and deal with it, because that's what the gallery is basically here for.
We can certainly do that. So we'll move along.
Move to second Councillor Bradford, I think.
Oh, yes, we'd better do that.
Well, I seconded the last one. And actually, we went through it so quickly I didn't have the opportunity to speak.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
And I actually had something to say as well. So.
Okay, we'll backtrack then, so that both so councillors have an opportunity to speak to the motion, as I was very hasty in rushing forward. I apologise, councillors.
So we're not back to 3.
So an opportunity for councillors to comment on the risk management framework. Thank you, Councillor.
First, I think.
Councillor Bradford.
Oh no, I don't.
Well, as a member of the audit committee, I'm well aware that about 3 meetings ago, we lifted the rock that had risk management under it and found out that we were woefully unprepared to implement a proper risk management strategy and framework. And the documents presented to the last audit committee were a breath of fresh air, and I think all the committee thought this is a quantum leap forward from where we were, and I think it's excellent work and excellent leadership of the CEO and excellent work by Jenny getting it done.
Thank you, Councillor Bradford. I can vouch for that. The feedback at the audit committee was very favourable indeed, audit committee meeting. And Councillor Hart?
I have been involved with the audit committee over many years, not recently. We've got some very talented replacements on that committee. I would have to say that I have been extremely unhappy with the level of risk management as it has been in the past, and have advocated long and hard for an improvement in our risk management system. I endorse everything that Councillor Braithwaite has said. I think we're finally getting there, so thanks to the Audit Committee, the staff under our CEO, I'm really pleased to see the current risk management policy and very happy to endorse it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hull. Any further comments from councillors? Now that I've finally given you the opportunity, then I apologise. And we had already previously passed that motion unanimously to accept the item 3.1. Now the suggestion or the motion from Councillor Beales that we move item 3.4 ahead in the order of events in the meeting, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Those in favour? And against?
Madam Mayor, I'll declare an interest in one of the sections of the roads involve our farm, Colonial Road, so I'd like to declare an interest in the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Orwood. We have a signed, here we are, declaration from Councillor Orwood. So, item 3.4, application for planning permit 02841. And I'll hand this item over to Dr. Tim as CEO and Ms. Schilling, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will pass directly to Ms. Schilling to make commentary on the application and the recommendations, and then I think we can engage in conversation and Councillor Taylor on that. That'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you. The report before you tonight outlines how the Council received an application for a 4-day festival in late April 2020 in August this year. The proposal involves up to 3,250 patrons and 250 staff, and is to be staged on a part of the 72-hectare site accessed by Vine Road North and Buanga Ben Nevis Road. The proposal would see the campus coming in over a period from lunchtime Wednesday and all being departed by Tuesday night the following week. The primary music entertainment is to run for a total of 56 hours out of the 74 hours of the music event, with breaks in music only between 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday and 2 a.m. Monday to 8 a.m. on Monday. The noise emission exceeds the state environmental planning policies, and the applicant has made an application to vary these on the basis of special social significance. The assessment provisions for this category are provided in the report on page 32. It's not considered that the applicant meets these requirements, and as they have been put to Council, and Council has been asked to advise EPA on its position on this matter, and we've asked for that to be deferred pending Council decision on the application. The applicant's consultant anticipates that the noise would be in 55 decibels at the nearby houses. However, a number of the neighbours objecting to the property have raised concerns about the impact of the extended music on their lifestyle, their ability to do work, and their enjoyment of their property, as well as disruption of farming activities. A number also in discussions raised concerns about the uncertainty about how the noise would travel, given the site's location at the base of Mount Langagerin and in the valley that it's located. And this has been difficult to get some clear evidence one way or the other to confirm, to allay their fears or confirm them. The suitability of the activity in a rural area has also been well canvassed in the report, both in terms of the planning scheme provisions and the objections made by residents in the area. Specifically, the setup, cool down and the event itself will coincide with the vintage of the nearby winery and the picking process in the vineyard that goes with that. This will result in grape pickers, winemaking staff and deliveries in B-doubles travelling a fairly narrow-laned single bitumen road, which has tree intrusions on sides in a number of points. In addition, there's normal rural stock movement can be expected, potentially plantation activities at the Blue Gum plantation, and it's unclear what the impact on the adjoining quarry will be. The report also explores the compatibility of the event with the farming zone, and this has been something that has moved in its assessment process over the last 12 months since I reported this time last year to Council on a similar event in the municipality. At that time, the understanding was that farm zone was quite innocuously affected by events like this because of their temporary nature. However, this assessment has been revisited in light of VCAT findings that were released in late last year in relation to an application in the Loddon Shire. So that's been used as a benchmark to look at this, to revisit that and move from where our previous assessments have been. Finally, there's the public participation in the application to consider. There are 13 objections received, predominantly from neighbours in the surrounding area, and 27 letters of support. Those objections raise issues that have already canvassed and are provided in a report in a summary format only, on page 44 and 46. They reflect the planning matters of concern, but also the confusion with varying information provided and the precedent this might set for future activities in their locale. The 27 letters of support were also received. 3 of these were from residents, however their addresses were not provided, so I can only assume they were nearby residents. It's unclear from available material. 23 were pro forma letters and count in much the same way in a planning sense as a petition would do, from local businesses, predominantly in Ararat. 1 was from the Buangus State School, and the potential benefit for them has already been outlined tonight by others, and 1 was from a nearby councillor. After an extensive assessment of the proposal, the recommendations tonight are to refuse the project on 5 grounds provided on page 49, and I'm happy to take any questions on the matter, councillors.
Thank you, Ms Schilling. Councillors, are there any questions for Ms Schilling? We have none.
I just want to make a comment. That's the most comprehensive application I've ever seen in this council. But it does not address all the points which were raised by council. That's my comment.
Thank you, Councillor Deutsch. So moving to, if there be no questions,
I'll move the recommendation.
we have a recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Beale.
Speak to it if it's second.
And do we have a seconder for the recommendation for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Deutsch. Councillor Beale, would you like
I
to
think because some people in the room sort of looked quite strange at why I'm still in here. For the benefit of those that don't realise, I'm the president of the Ararat Rotary Club, and it's one of the groups that's mentioned on this document. This is the second time I've seen this document, and the previous document had, where Warwick CFA was, had Ararat Scouts. Well, I used to be a scout leader for 30 years and I can't find the Scouts here anymore. That said, the only contact as president, no one has contacted me verbally or written or email. I did speak to the secretary asking for a letter of support and that was declined. That's a total input that the Ararat Rotary Club has had into this. We have no conflict, in my view, in relation to that. Secondly, I found, and I asked the question of the mayor, the letter of the mayor, quite disturbing. I've been 5 times mayor and 4 times in another municipality and 28 odd years as a councillor. I've never had another councillor submit a written submission to any planning or any issue from a neighbouring municipality into my municipality, yet alone from Melton, which is suburban Melton.
Totally different.
Suburban Melton. So the relevance of that I find difficult. I also have 50 years experience in emergency management, in the police force, the SES and the CFA. I'm concerned about the depth of the information we've been supplied with. I'm concerned about the location for safety. I'm concerned about the public amenity. We shouldn't be actually thinking of who's going to make profit within the community out of this in a financial sense. We've got to look at the planning matters, and profitability of events and community groups isn't a planning issue. Normally I would have said April's a much better time of the year to have a festival. But with the weather conditions we seem to have nowadays, the opportunities for disasters and particularly fires is spread over a much longer period. I digress to say when I first played cricket in 1981 in Kinglake, the first match of the season was the first weekend in October, and we never played to the end of November in Kinglake because it's too wet. Played there in June now. We can't take any risk with fire in areas like that, and the road conditions, whilst of a good standard for what they're normally used to, and council maintains them well, not for the volume of traffic at that time of the year with the harvest and all those other things. I couldn't support it in its current form.
Thank you, Councillor Beales. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Well, I fully agree. It's the wrong time of the year, for sure. With all the bush being dry as it is, it only takes one idiot. And we know amongst 4,000 people you'll have at least one idiot. I'm sorry to say that.
Thanks, Councillor Dodge. Councillor Hull?
I've read the application or the documentation that has been supplied and taken note of that. I understand the applicant and his desire to have a festival, and I know that festivals can have an economic benefit, but as pointed out by Councillor Beales, that is not part of a planning matter decision. I have the concerns, I endorse the concerns that are raised by the planning manager in the application. I note that the applicant made an effort to address those concerns, but that is virtually after the application has gone in. And in its current format, I could not possibly endorse the application. And I endorse the recommendation, I don't support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Hull. So we have the motion of the recommendation as put in the agenda, that the council, having required that notice of application be given and having received and considered objections and submissions, and the question of detriment, resolves to issue a notice of refusal to grant planning permit number 02841 for use of land or as a place of assembly to stage a public event. And so the recommendation goes forth in 5 points. Those in favour? Those against? That motion is carried. We have attendees in the gallery for whom their interest in the meeting may well have come to a conclusion. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting, but if you would like to leave the chamber now, feel free. As I say, you're very welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Welcome back to the Chamber, Councillor Allgood. To let you know, the motion was put to accept the recommendation as detailed in the agenda and was carried unanimously. So we'll...
It should be indicated, Councillor, for the phone ring.
Yes, in the midst of that, your musical ringtone entertained us. So we'll go back to item 3.2 in our agenda. Still clicking my way back through. There's pages and pages. It does, doesn't it? Come up to 3.3. There we are. So the next part of the meeting, Appointment and Authorisations, Planning and Environment Act. And I'll hand the meeting over to you, Mr. CEO, to enlighten us on this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll pass this straight to Ms. Woodcock just to briefly describe to Council what we're trying to achieve here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harrison. The appointments and authorisations under the Planning and Environment Act have been reviewed, and the only change to this particular document is the delegates have been updated, so there's actually no change to the legislation. This document needs to be signed and sealed by the Council.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilcock. We are always very keen to be compliant, aren't we? Do any councillors have any questions of Ms. Wilcock?
I do have one. With these pools that are inflatable, some of them...
This is actually item 3.2
Oh,
we are on at the moment, Councillor Allgood, because we did change the order of
completely.
meeting, order of items in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there being no questions of Ms. Wilcock, we have a recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Beales. We have a second. Thanks, Councillor Braithwaite. Would you like to speak, Councillor Braithwaite?
No.
Nobody else wishing to speak?
Straightforward.
Thank you. Those in favour of the recommendation? Those against? Carried. Now we're up to item 3.3, building fees for pool and spa regulations. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll flick past this one straight to Ms. Schilling to deal with. This is an exciting new piece of regulation we need to deal with.
Thank you. Councillors, this report comes to you tonight, and I trust that you've not been inundated with people after some angry radio coverage about why we're doing this so late. The matter was came into effect from the 1st of December and was only released by the state on the Tuesday night of that week and onto the VBA website on the Friday the 29th of November. To say it had a few changes and tweaks from the previous exposure draft 12 months earlier would be an understatement. That said, we were ready to go, pending a few things, and then we realised that we needed you to resolve some new fees for us to make this a reality. The registration of pools by the community and spas is the first step to a new compliance regime that's aimed very solidly at reducing the loss of life in this area. And following this stage, there will be more work that we do if you're an owner of a pool and spa to show that you continue to maintain compliance. One of the things that's known is that many people have these facilities in their backyard. They, over time, put other uses nearby, barbecues, pot plants and other things that small people find very easy to use as a jungle gym to enter an area they're not supposed to be. So the purpose of the compliance regime is really to put wraparound around that and build community understanding and awareness of this issue. In terms of the more practical aspects of the fees, the Act and regulations prescribe maximum fees and they're outlined on page 10. We have done a piece of work through this project to actually, and what we want to do is encourage people to register themselves. We've been working with our business transformation team to what that might look like, and we have the current draft, feel free to give us feedback on that, tries to make it at least a little bit fun. Nobody likes to be making registration of any kind that I know of, particularly when it comes with a bill. So we wanted to try and make it so that it was easy for people to do on a phone, on a device, or if they're not savvy with that, that customer service can walk them through the questions and do it. The system will then generate their invoice and give them time to pay, and that will also allow us to track the material really easily with very limited, in that first stage, checking required to make sure it's all correct. So in return for that saving and that self-service, we've actually suggested to Council tonight that rather than charge the maximum fee for that lodgement, that we roll it down to $30. A, it's a lot easier to deal with if you're on the front counter, and B, it also means it's a small price, very token reward to acknowledge that the customers will do most of the work in the first stage for us, and then a new part of the task begins.
Thank you, Ms. Shelling. Any questions from councillors?
Well, the proposed the proposed fee structure, we're missing out on 6 cents here.
No, we're missing out on $1.81. Sorry.
On the fourth dot point, we're missing out on 6 cents.
Oh, that's because I actually care about the customer service staff. And I don't know about you, but all of us get a pocket full of change from time to time, and it goes to piggy banks and parking door purses.
Whoever worked that out must have spent all day on that. Jesus.
They not related to local government.
Not us,
to say that it's not a...
They are a spectacular set of fees, aren't they?
They are working fee units, and then you have to multiply that by the current fee unit, which is why you get some rather unusual numbers that most of us don't carry coppers to even pay anymore.
Exactly. Any further questions in this show?
I do have a question.
Okay.
With the relocatable pools, some of those can be quite deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I had a couple of phone calls a couple of years ago about the issue of they're in garages, in open areas where any children come off the street. There doesn't seem to be a height or a maximum size with that one, and I'm looking at the relocatable ones on page 11. Has there been any thought about those deeper?
Yeah, they are a real challenge, the relocatable pools, particularly you buy it at Kmart for Christmas. It's very affordable. Most people don't realise in most instances they currently need a pool barrier, and that will often set you back several $100s from the hardware store to buy the panels to put around it. We're still doing some work on it. The work that's in the report on page 11, the second paragraph under the proposal, that says relocatable pools do not consist of multiple components or do not require assembly, are not subject to the barrier requirements. I had staff today show me 2 different pools from a Kmart catalogue. One was the higher walls and multiple panels and a little filtration unit. That's clearly outside the relocatable definition. One of them was an inflatable one, but it actually had a filtration system. And the way I read the instructions, it might be not considered relocatable, but we need to do some more work there.
Yeah.
I think there's one of the benefits, at least, of the 6 months lead time to register is there's a little bit of grey area to keep. Likewise, many people with spas who have lockable lids think they are compliant. They're not compliant with the fencing regulations in most cases. So we need to, there's as much public education, which is why getting people on board is the first step, and then working through some of these challenges is the next.
That was part of my question, was the fact that this was, she obviously could look over the fence to see that this was quite out in an open area with young children walking past, and she was very concerned. Yeah.
Yes.
We did address the issue, but I just noticed it again popping up, so I thought I'd ask the question.
They are a perennial problem, and they're not. I think you'll find if you buy a box that somewhere on there in very small type it will say check with your local authority or local government about requirements. I suggest that most people are a bit more excited to fill it up and put it up than they are to check with us.
Oh, no, they are.
Michelle, can I ask, with the registration, as you said, there's a 6-month leeway. Is registration valid for 12 months from that initial date, or is it on a calendar year basis?
Our understanding is that registration is a once-off process, unlike an animal registration that you do every year, but that there will then be an inspection regime. And the table in page 12 shows that they're actually going to start with the oldest of the pools, on the theory that they may potentially have the most compromised barriers, and that people will have to get someone to sign off and certify they're compliant within the first 12 months. Then every 4 years you'll give us a new compliance certificate. So the only new registrations that should come in place after the 1st of June will be for new installations or new purchases, or people that we find, be it through real estate advertising, the neighbours next door, other ways. And there are fairly severe fines down the track if you don't actually register.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, given the prevalence of this little item these days, is there there are always people who try to avoid fees and regulations. Any chance we might use a drone at some stage?
Look, I think there are a range of opportunities. We know, for example, that from our rates database, we have 163 pools in the municipality, because when the rates people do an inspection, they talk about the improvements on the land and they note those. So we've got a first catch of who should be coming to talk to us and register. Drone technology, satellite photos, pools particularly more so than spas, reflect beautifully on Google Earth. They're not hard to find. They're often, as I say, pop up on your real estate advertisement, and the neighbour is probably our most reliable informant source and cheapest.
Good neighbour policy.
Invite your neighbour around for a swim.
Good question, Councillor Hall.
Second question, I probably shouldn't ask this question because it might indict me, but it refers specifically to pools and spas, ponds and mini lakes and...
Ponds, mini lakes, farm dams have never been captured by this legislation, and for some people who have a pool, they find that a substantial and valid injustice, because particularly in an urban area there are still places where there are substantive water sources that are not in a constructed, what we would consider a pool or spa, but at the same level of hazard, if not more so. A little person goes wandering through a fence, they can be in an ornamental pond, they can be in a dam readily.
And the biggest example of this is the NVG of Victoria. If you walk there, there's a massive, would be 50 metres long, 1 metre deep, full of coins, and kids and people walking by it, and they don't have a fence.
There's a lot of wood in there too, isn't there?
And the kids might jump in to get the coins.
I've got one of those small people who wants to collect those coins for fun, not to take them home, but because it looks fun. And on a hot summer day, it's hard to say no.
I've actually seen a toddler, about a 2-year-old, fall over. It was up at Burren Junction in the hot water bars up there, but fell over and just floated face down, made absolutely no attempt to right themselves, splutter, do anything. It was the best example I've ever seen of how a toddler can drown.
And on that public safety warning, thank you, Councillor Hull. We have a recommendation. Do we have somebody to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Hull. Thank you, Councillor Allgood. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Hunt?
No, I think the discussion's been had.
Nobody else? Thank you. Those in favour of the motion? Against? And carried. Thank you. Skip right past item 3.4 to 3.5, which is interaction with professional lobbyists policy. It's almost a tongue twister. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very briefly, a couple of months ago we had some correspondence from the Honourable Adam Sonyarak, the Minister for Local Government, requesting information about whether we had an interaction with professional lobbyist policy in place. I think he was sadly disappointed. I think any council in Victoria had such policy in place at that point in time. And that relates to situations where councillors or council staff are approached by professional lobbyists over particular issues. In my correspondence with the Minister, I indicated that it wasn't a big issue at Ararat Rural City at this point in time, and it possibly applied more directly to other councils in other places. And casing hadn't happened at that stage, so it wasn't as funny as it could have been. But I guess I did make an undertaking that we'd review our approach to this, and we'd adopt a policy that is based fairly closely on the Victorian Government Professional Lobbyist Code of Conduct. This is our first cut of this policy. Local Government Victoria were unable to provide very much guidance to us on what we should be doing there, so this is a fairly basic first attempt, but at least, I guess, puts us in a position where we're the first council in Victoria to adopt such a policy, but also acknowledging the fact that the intervention of professional lobbyists can be a part of council law and council office at work, and that we need to engage in some protections for ourselves in that space, given recent activity in the sector.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Tim?
Happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Beales, the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Would you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, when I retire, I might become a professional lobbyist. I need to have some guidelines.
No, my partner.
Beales and Hunt.
Seems to me that the Minister's covering his bum.
So we're covering ourselves as well.
Okay, we'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Against? And carried. Thank you. Section 4 of the meeting, information reports. Item 4.1, building approvals. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is a fairly standard report that we're fairly used to in this format, just identifying the fact that there were nearly $2 million worth of building approvals issued in the month, which is fairly good going at this point in time. And if councillors have got any particular questions, we'll answer those. Otherwise, it's for council's information.
Thank you, Councillor Allwood.
Yes, just that I've had a lot of people comment on the issue of us not having a building surveyor at the moment, and I think that this basically explains that locally we've had $108,000 and from away we've had $1.7 million of people, so I think that maybe we could do a little bit of a press release over the fact that not a lot of people are coming to us for the building areas. Case in point, it's self-explanatory tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Allwood. Any other comments from councillors? I do have a comment. I've been contacted by a ratepayer who was rather shocked to learn of the cost of the building approval for a construction that was the approval was contracted out, subcontracted to the contracted construction company, and there was a query as to whether or not council's decision to no longer employ a building surveyor had in fact given commercial outfits the to use his words, licence to print money. So further investigation is required to find out whether it was a pretty standard commercial charge, or whether in fact it had been inflated since our council had made that decision. So that's just an observation I wish to share.
That's fine. I think Mr. would like to make.
Thank you.
Some of the feedback that we've had so far has probably been less about the cost of the application, but that people now have to pay for travel for their site inspections. So that was something that we didn't charge if you're in. We didn't do anything outside the municipality. Within the municipality, we didn't. That was built into the fee. I understand that is a $250 charge for some of the prices that we've been given feedback on. People who come and get that inspection done.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon.
Also,
Yes.
sorry,
I was just going to say maybe all the surveyors in buildings could employ a single person to do their inspections for them. There's an opportunity, employment opportunity there.
Councillor Braithwaite.
While I understand their point of view, it's user pays. And we were providing this service at about $200,000 a year. We have been told by our people that they want us to cut costs. This is a perfectly legitimate private business firms. There's a number of them and they're competing in the open market. I've got no problem.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite.
Yeah, one more thing. In comparison to the past, building approvals are much quicker, much quicker. And this saves money. I hope that everybody understands that. Much better system now.
Madam Mayor, may I just make a very brief comment? I think Councillor Braithwaite makes a very strong point. I'm not trying to enter into the debate at all. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact there's also national competition policy implications of us providing a service at a subsidised rate. And we're actually supposed to do that when we're in an open competitive market. So we need to bear in mind that people may be surprised at the cost of building surveying, but we actually have a duty as well. We're operating in a free market, not to subsidise our service we're providing in a competitive sense. So there's an important consideration there as well, that if we're in a market that is freely competitive, we need to be very careful about that issue as well. So there may be pressure on for us to provide a cheaper service, but we're not entitled to do it. That's exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. CEO and councillors. There have been some excellent points shared. Thank you for those comments. So we have a recommendation that the building approvals report be received.
I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Allgood. Second, Councillor Braithwaite. And anybody wishing to speak to the motion? No, that being the case, then we I'll call for votes on the motion. Those in favour and against, carried. Item 4.2, planning matters approved under delegation, planning permits and certification of subdivision plans. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very briefly, here are the planning items that have been dealt with under delegation. There have been significant improvements in on-time provision of planning services to the community, which is something Ms Schilling and her department should be congratulated for. It's an ongoing, continual improvement in that space. So it's something we should be proud of.
Thank you. Any questions of the CEO regarding this?
I have a question with the one on page 56, the indoor recreational facility, 3 King Street. Is that a private operation or?
Yes.
What would that involve?
Indoor personal training, so
Oh,
group
right.
fitness class.
Okay. Yeah. Just looked like it might have been a whole new building going out.
No.
Thank you. Any further questions? We have a recommendation that the report be approved. Thank you, Councillor Deutsch. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Hull. Would you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Deutsch?
Why not really, not.
Okay, thanks, Councillor
Yep.
Hull. No comments. Those in favour and against? Carried. Item 4.3, the governance schedule. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Singer.
Madam Mayor. I'll put this straight to Ms Wilcox for discussion. Thank you.
We've had a review of our current governance schedule and we've updated it slightly. The governance schedule incorporates the statutory obligations under the Local Government Act and other acts. This particular schedule will now be reviewed regularly and will be reported to the CEO as an ongoing, probably monthly basis, whereas the other one before didn't get reported on a regular basis. So that's just for information for councillors.
Thank you very much, Ms Wilcock. Any questions from councillors for Ms Wilcock on this item? No. We have a recommendation that we receive the report. Thank you, Councillor Beals, and seconded Councillor Hull. I saw your pen go up before. Those in favour? Can I? Oh, sorry.
Just a quick comment. A lot of this isn't our money. A lot of this is state government money, isn't it, that we've got.
This is item 4.3, which is the governance schedule.
One ahead.
Thank you.
This just keeps us legal.
Yes, yes. And this actually, we did actually, I'll just make a comment on this report. We did actually discuss this to a degree at the Audit Committee meeting, and it was well appreciated by the members of the committee that it be something that is at the forefront of our minds in the field of compliance, and so that's terrific. There's going to be regular reporting rather than have it just bubble along in the background.
That's right.
Thank you very much. So now I'll call for votes for the motion. Those in favour, those against, and carried. Now we're up to item capital 4.4, Capital Works Programme 2019-20. Mr CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just, I guess, the first of the month reports I've been promising Council on the Capital Works Programme. This month, really, I guess, is the month before the storm. We'll have most of our Capital Works Programmes tendered after this evening, hopefully, and we'll be moving forward with those so that the report will take on a harder edge as we start to report percentage completion of those projects into the new year, and also compliance with budget on those projects as we move forward as well. A couple of very quick items. I had mentioned previously to Council about some variations to Lake Resource Recovery Centre around the civil works there. They're reported in that item. And also some good news about our fountain. After the last council meeting, the contractor got in touch with us, almost straight after the council meeting. It was like he was watching or someone he knew was watching it. And there's a late January completion date in place now, with the sealing of the fountain now complete. So it's watertight again. So that's a great thing.
Wouldn't it be great if that was ready in time for the Australia Day 2020 celebration?
I second it. That would be great.
You think I had? Do we have any questions of the CEO regarding this report? Councillor Braithwaite.
There is an awful lot of work going on, and some of these pieces of work are quite significant in their costings. Given in the past we've not been too agile at project management, has the CEO got any wishes that he would like to ensure that these can be managed?
Yeah. I think it's a very good point, Councillor Braithwaite. I could respond to that, Madam Mayor. I think that there have been justifiable concerns from Council around our project management in the past. It hasn't been something the Council has a strong recent track record of achieving on cost, on budget, on cost, at quality, on time, completion of projects. Certainly something that's been foremost in my mind, as we've expressed a number of times. I think we're actually in a very good space to deliver our Capital Works Programme this year, because we have two professional engineers who have strong Capital Works delivery experience, who are now freed up to be experienced civil engineers who have that experience, who could deliver that on the ground for us. We've had some changes in our structural approach, which have freed them up. We're also lucky to have a consultant who's working with us a couple of days a week to help manage that process as we roll out, and she's committed to staying to the completion of the Capital Works Programme. So I think we're in much better shape than we've ever been before, and I'm actually very confident that we'll deliver that program on budget, on time, and at quality.
I look forward to seeing that result.
Thank you. Any further questions of the CEO? We have yes,
I did have a look at the internet about the why the bridges are built. The system, very, very quick, 3 days instead of 3 months. Wonderful.
It is. We have a recommendation that Council receives the Capital Works Programme report. Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Seconded, Councillor Beals. And would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
Thank you. Those in favour? Against? And carried. Moving to section 5 of the meeting, committee minutes and reports. Item 5.1, section 86, committees of management minutes. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is a fairly straightforward section. We have some Section 86 committees here to report on over the period. There's an addendum to the council agenda that includes the Minamira AGM minutes, because I guess we want the Minamira committee to be able to move forward with their business. They can't do that until we've adopted their AGM minutes. So I guess with that addendum, I hope council are happy enough to accept that. It certainly helps them get on with their work at that point in time. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the CEO? Thank you, Councillor Beals.
Yes, CEO, I note that we still have some recalcitrant, I can never pronounce that word.
Recalcitrant.
Thank you very much. Committees that are not giving us our meeting dates, and our councillors can't perform their duties. So what are we doing about that?
Well, I think there's a need for Ms Wilcox as our Section 86 committee manager to put the pressure on a little bit more so we get a series of dates in advance to get out to council so they can actually fulfil their duties on Section 86 committees. We'll be hoping to have something to in the new year, which will give some indication of those meetings. I appreciate the councillors can't be there if they don't know the meetings are on. Yeah.
Thank you, that would be
They're all,
appreciated.
I think there's probably some few recalcitrant, I can't say it now either. Recalcitrant committees, that must be contagious. Recalcitrant committees who don't meet very often, probably don't meet often enough, so I think we need to deal with that.
Well,
the one thing I would also say is that the Section 86 committee will cease to be an issue when the new local government bill 2019 becomes law. So we'll be changing processes around that. I think a number of people would call that Councillor Hull.
Do we have any questions of the CEO?
The Buranga community, they've never once advised the meeting times, but they meet on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, which early in the month, which makes it almost impossible for me to get that.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's
It's really interesting reading some of the minutes too, that they don't necessarily comply with the issues that maybe that should be done. And so I don't know how we address that issue, but some of them are a little bit sketchy.
Well,
there
maybe
is a
taken out of our hands, right?
Yeah, we won't have to worry about Section 86 committees. There'll be different models for management. I think that will tighten the process a little bit too. The onus will be on them to meet statutory obligations themselves rather than via us. So it should be somewhat of an improvement, I think.
Yeah, that will be a happy day. So we have a recommendation in 4 parts. 5, I beg your pardon, because of the addition of the Minnera Red Preserve AGM minutes. Thank you, Councillor Ms Wilcock. So do I have somebody to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Allgood. Seconded, Councillor Hull. Do you wish to speak?
I do. One of the things about going down to Whitcliffe, I can't believe that if you read some of the minutes, of the local minutes, you're battling to get 5. The last time we went down there, Dr. Tim, there was 14. You know, it's just amazing the amount of love and attention all these smaller communities have got to their facilities and how much work they do. It's really interesting to sit there, and I know that the meetings might take some time, some nights, but they're really worthwhile going to and listening to what people are doing for us. Incredible.
They are. So, Councillor Hull, did you have a comment to pass? No. So we'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 5.2, Advisory Committee's minutes. And we have just one meeting there to report on. Thank you, Mr CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The meeting reported on is the Audit Committee, and we have 2 councillor members of that who will probably wish to make their own commentary around that, so I'll save you any commentary of my own. Thank you.
Councillor Braithwaite.
Yes, it's the committee's going through a little bit of a change in personnel. We've had the sage advice of Homie Bajuri, for 6 years. He finished up the last meeting, and Mr. Brian Dean has now accepted the chairmanship of our committee, and I think he'll be an excellent chairman. And we have a young lady called Jess. Somebody from up there who we interviewed about 6 months ago and was very good material, joining us. And of course we now have Councillor Armstrong trying to fill the very, very large shoes of Councillor Beard.
This is true.
Oh, I don't think
This is
so.
true. I got a great deal out of that, attending my first audit committee meeting, and I'm quite impressed with the scope of the work that the committee undertakes and the method of reporting back to us as council.
There's one other thing. We are also currently in the process of appointing a new internal auditor. That hasn't been finalised yet.
We finalised before Christmas.
Okay. Brad Eade from, I can't remember the name of the company he works for, but has been our internal auditor now for about 6 years. Continuity there would be good.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Do we have any questions of the CEO from any other councillors regarding this report? No, we have a recommendation that the advisory committee's report be received. Do I have somebody to move the motion? Councillor Beales, the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Deutsch. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Beales? Councillor Deutsch. I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Section 6, Assembly of Councillors, and we have a report here, Mr CEO.
I don't think there's anything to report there, Madam Mayor. And we only had one Assembly of Councillors this month, on the 3rd of December, because something important is happening later in the month that will shorten it for us. So we've pushed our schedule forward a week at this stage.
Thank you. Any questions of the CEO?
The follow-ups for some of the items that were raised that were...
Yeah, I'll follow those up individually with councillors, if that's okay, Councillor.
I don't want to mention them, but if you could do that, great.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from councillors? No? We have a recommendation that the report be received. Thank you, Councillor Hull. Councillor George, seconder. Nobody's going to speak. No? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? And that's carried. Thank you. Section 7, Councillor reports. I'll start with you, Councillor Beales.
It's such a long time since my last report. So the Millionaire AGM was held on the 28th of 11th, and I attended that with the CEO. Before the meeting we had their normal meeting. The minutes are there, very good meeting. And on the 5th of December we had the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee meeting in preparation for the fire season. Restructured, streamlined process, much quicker meeting under the guidance of the planning officer, woman, multi-talents and hats. And that's all I've done that can be reported on. I can't claim the day of disability. I was there barbecuing, but I wasn't the role as a councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Beales. Councillor Braithwaite.
Yes, I attended the Promotional Hall Committee meeting last week and provided a number of items to Jenny to look through. It's very pleasing to know that the men's shed got a $66,000 injection of funding from the state government. So that will be built in the southeastern corner of the car park. I also attended the Australian Government Sport and Volunteer Awards today in Colac, where one of our local ladies, who is the current reigning Golden Gateway Queen, Caitlin McDonald, received a volunteer award. And she was the only one from our area that got an award, and they were spread right the way through the Wannon district. I'll also be attending the Moyston, and this is ones that I'm going to attend because it's going to be 2 months before we report on. The Moyston on Thursday for the delivery of the council sponsorship, and also the next Tuesday at the Pomona Hall to do the same thing on your behalf.
Thank you very much, Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Hull.
There's only one committee meeting that I attended that I think is of significance for the meeting, and that was the waste management which was held in Horsham in November. Sorry, Jenny, I can't recall the date. It was an interesting meeting. When a number of years ago, not so long ago, the state government formed a new way of dealing with waste management. They formed a forum of 12 councillors, which this municipality is one. That forum, it has a board which is appointed by the government. The forum is the next level, and then there's the third level under that, which is the task group, which is comprised of all the officers from those 12 councils. For a long time after that was formed, everybody was in limbo, waiting for all of the policies and what have you to be developed, so nothing much happened. It was a wait and see. They finally got around to doing all that, and I'm not too sure that the forum actually achieves a lot. The administration underneath the forum does quite a lot of work, but the forum itself meets and talks, and that's about it. But now it's back in limbo again because the government are working on a circular economy regarding waste management, and nothing is going to happen until the government determines what that policy is going to be. I even heard it mentioned that it might even be something like waste management going to a similar structure to water and sewerage. So who knows? So again, it's back in limbo, and we're waiting for the government to do something. But I will say that the people who work for the forum and the board, under the board, do a lot of work in education, and they also have to wait because under this circular economy it's likely to have 4 waste bins instead of the 2 that we have now, standardisation across Victoria, so it's very much a wait and see.
So, in other words, if you're in the waste business, a waste bin business, you've got a good chance of making money.
Do you like to buy in?
Hey?
Do you like to buy in?
No, not really.
Councillor Joyce, do you have a report for any meetings?
It's all quiet in Lake Bollock.
Thank you. Councillor Allgood.
I'd just like to report on the Christmas tree. I must admit, when I saw it, I was really disappointed, because a lot of people were. Not a lot of people have seen it alight. It's absolutely magnificent. It really stands out and looks great, and I love the fact that we've got the 2 decorations on the lawn as well. That's a great initiative. But looking at that tree, it was a real concern. And I've had so many people say, you know, how disappointing it is the way it looks. I said, well, go and have a look at night and you'll change your mind completely. And there's one of the other things that I liked was the fact that we had our decorations out so early. And with the decorations and the vines in Barclay Street, there's a lot of comments made at the moment about how good everything looks and how we're actually in the mood this year. We've got the decorations up and looking really good. So I'd like to congratulate the staff on their time and effort.
Thank you, Councillor Allgood. And I'll give a report on the activities since the last meeting in November, not December. Thanks, Councillor Braithwaite. So Wednesday, 20th of November, I attended the Greater Ararat Business Network event entitled Business After Dark, and there were about 60 people there. It was terrific, very positive mood. Thursday, 21st of November, I attended the Farm Her Dinner at the Buanga Cobb & Co building. Again, that was very well attended, and it was just a fantastic display of the photos and statements given by the women who participated in the project, which has been auspiced by the Grampians Pyrenees PCP and enveloped our municipality as well as the Pyrenees Shire. On Saturday the 23rd of November, I attended the Elmhurst Twilight Market, and I was so nervous that one of those young people was going to lose a toe doing that wood chopping, but they are really, really skilled. Those blades are pretty sharp, but they are very, very skilled. That was a great event. Tuesday the 26th of November, I attended a committee meeting for the Resilience Project. Again on that day, I attended the Audit Committee meeting with Councillor Braithwaite and the CEO and Ms Kilpatrick, Ms Cronin. And Tuesday 26th of November again, and that evening I attended the East Grampians Health Service AGM. Sunday the 1st of December was the lighting of the Christmas tree, and I do endorse your comments, Councillor Allgood. It really is quite something lit up, isn't it? Monday the 2nd of December, I attended the Marion College Student Awards evening and presented the Ian Harris Memorial Award to a deserving student named Danica Clayton. Tuesday the 3rd of December, I attended the International Day of People with Disabilities event, which was organised by Ararat Neighbourhood House, and lots of other organisations around the town contributed to a really successful celebration. There were many, many people there. It was a day that commenced with really very strong wind, which seemed to have carried on from the night of the Christmas tree. That was almost Antarctic conditions that evening. And look, the people who organised that event did such a great job. Joe Ritchie spoke really well. The MC Russ was terrific, played some great music as well. And the Pumas and Braves also spoke about their sporting and physical endeavours. And I've got to say how impressed I was when Tony Hobson spoke and gave an address, and Lou Macon of Ararat Neighbourhood House signed at the same time. That was very, very impressive. As she said, she could have said anything and I wouldn't have known the difference, but I'm sure that she was absolutely genuine in what she was communicating. Thursday the 5th of December was just such a great celebration, the East Grampians Business Awards at our town hall. It took my breath away when I walked in. The setting up that had been done by council staff was just fantastic. It just looked amazing. The lighting was terrific. The table decorations were tremendous. The attendees were all there, absolutely just dressed to the nines and so excited for a night of celebration for their achievements in business and industry. And there are people still talking about it, still passing comment about how positive the night was, how enthusiastic people are. And I think you're right, Councillor Orr, talking about the mood at the moment. People are really, really excited about opportunities that we have ahead. And we really enjoyed hosting Minister Adam Somyurek, Minister for Local Government and Small Business, and it was quite a coup having him there. And he presented the Business of the Year award to Pomona Estate. There have been press releases go out with the names of all the businesses that did receive awards, so I won't recite them again because there is actually a time limit on this part of the meeting, isn't there? On Sunday I attended Saturday I think it was, the Grampians Writers Group launched an anthology of their writing entitled Landlines 2019. Try and get your hands on a copy. There are some really, really great pieces of writing in there, and as I said, it's like dipping into a box of chocolates. You get something a little bit different each time. And then this very morning was the launch of the Resilience Project 2020 at the Central Grampians LEN, and we had a terrific presentation by Jess Patterson, Executive Officer of the CG LEN. Also, Jack Ward has put together a fantastic montage communicating what the project is about, with a number of students speaking, and also one of our local football heroes, Dave Asprey, has had quite a lot to do with the project at the Richmond Football Club, and he gave his testimonial as well in that video clip. Ryan Oliver spoke very, very well on the subject. He's the principal at Ararat 800, and it was a really encouraging, I think, start to the Resilience Project coming to Ararat. There'll be information that goes out across social media and other information channels. So I encourage people to keep their eyes out for that, because it's going to encompass the whole of our community. It's not just schools based. So that concludes my report. So we have a recommendation that councillor reports be received. Can I have somebody move that? Councillor Allgood, seconded. Councillor Beales, those in favour. Carried. And we now move to Section 8, notices of motion. None were received. Section 9, urgent business. None was received. We now move to Section 10, the closed session of our meeting, which is confidential, and we have a number of agenda items for consideration, which are largely personnel and tender-related contractual matters. So personnel and contractual matters. We have a recommendation to close the meeting, but public members are welcome to rejoin the meeting following the recommencement of our opening meeting. Recommendation that the meeting be closed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Beale seconded. Councillor Braithwaite. Those in favour? Against? That's carried.